Gentlemen, entering the stage of the Colonial Theatre Steering Committee co-chairs Sanford Fisher and Steve Massicott, Executive Director of the Massachusetts Historian Committee, Judy McDonough, Chairman of the National Endowment for the Arts, Bill Ivey, owner of the Colonial Theatre building, Steve Miller, and historian Bob Bolin. No. Now we're announcing her, the mayor. These are ready. Yes. You need to be up on stage. Yeah, don't look on stage. Are you ready? Where's the mayor and the congressman?
We're gonna walk out this way.
Kowski. There's these in the back. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the First Lady of the United States, accompanied by U.S. Congressman John Over and Mayor of Pittsfield, Gerald Doyle. Now, if you guys...
Thank you. Is everybody warm enough? First of all, before I make my remarks, I just want to say, I know that a lot of people have been here for a long time today, but I think an issue of this importance, it's worth the wait. So thank you for the delay. I would first like to say what an honor and a pleasure it is to welcome First Lady Hillary Clinton to Pittsfield as part of the White House Millennium Council Save America's Treasure Tour. Thank you, Mrs. Clinton. First, I would like to express my appreciation to all of you who are here with us today. This kind of civic support for this project, for Mrs. Clinton's visit, is a credit to this city and to all of Berkshire County. I would also like to thank the work of the city employees who have made this event happen and make our city run on a daily basis. It looks great around here. Thank you. One employee I would like to specifically mention for his work in making this visit happen is Mr. Glenn Russo from the Department of Community Development. He handled the initial inquiry from the White House Millennium Council and has coordinated every aspect of this visit. His work made this possible, and I cannot thank him enough. Thank you, Glenn. This project has advanced through the efforts of many, but I would like to specifically thank some of the members of the Colonial Theatre Task Force that I put together soon after taking office. First, I would like to mention Bob Bolin for his dedication to this project for many years and his work for the Friends of the Colonial Theatre. Thank you, Bob. Steve Massicott and Sandy Fisher also deserve special mention for their work over the past few months to help make this project a reality. Thank you, guys. I would also like to mention Congressman John Over and State Senator Andre Nucifero for their commitment to this project, to the task force, and to securing funding necessary for this project. Thank you, Congressman Over. I would also like to thank the Miller family for their vision and foresight in terms of the restoration of this theater. This was a dream of the late George Miller that continues today with Stephen Miller. We all owe them a debt of gratitude for their vision for the Colonial Theatre. I would also like to thank all our local elected officials and state and federal legislators for being with us today and sitting out there. Thank you very much. Today is a special day for the City of Pittsfield and the Colonial Theatre project. Today, national attention is focused here because of Mrs. Clinton's visit and due to the Colonial Theatre selection as part of the White House Millennium Council's Save America's Treasures Tour. This tour highlights the Colonial Theatre Restoration Project as worthy of national recognition and takes this project to a new level. The call for restoration of the Colonial Theatre began with a few voices, developed into a chorus, and resulted in the national attention that this project is receiving today. Pittsfield is in the heart of the Berkshires, and our economic revitalization benefits all of Berkshire County. This trip by the First Lady highlights the Colonial Theatre as a major cultural attraction that can help encourage the economic redevelopment of this city and this county. The Colonial Theatre remains one of only a few theaters of its kind in the country and is a masterpiece of architectural design. The restoration of this downtown jewel promises to preserve an historic landmark that will provide a centerpiece for downtown revitalization. In the years to come, I look forward to the Colonial Theatre taking its place as one of the Berkshire County's premier cultural attractions and return to its original glory. The Downtown Revitalization Initiative, which includes the restoration of the Colonial Theatre, is in the first phase of a sweeping plan designed to provide historic upscale office space, restaurants and shops, and commercial and government offices that blend the city's historic heritage with the 21st century into the 21st century business opportunities. This visit by Mrs. Clinton will go a long way to making that downtown plan a reality. I cannot imagine a better way to showcase this project than this visit today by the First Lady. Mrs. Clinton has focused national attention on Pittsfield's restoration efforts and given us a reason to be proud. We thank her for her unique efforts to save America's treasures. Thank you. I was a little nervous. I didn't have my other paper there. And I'll never hear the end of this. It's with great pleasure that I introduced one of the money guys behind this operation, our Congressman John Over. Thanks, John.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is truly a great honor for me to be able to be here today as we join America's First Lady in her commitment to restore America's treasures. I know you've been very patient, but it is a great day for Pittsfield, and so I'm sure that this patience will pay off over the long haul. Last year, President Clinton and Mrs. Clinton created the Millennium Council and pledged to restore America's landmarks so that future generations can learn and benefit from our country's priceless cultural treasures. Today we gather to celebrate Pittsfield's remarkable Colonial Theatre, which is a landmark from one period of this nation's finest buildings and architecture. But the Colonial Theatre is more than an historical prize. It will be a linchpin in this region's cultural and economic future. We are all pleased that the First Lady, the Millennium Council, and the National Trust have deemed the theater one of the finest American cultural resources. Now, after almost a century after its construction, there is momentum to restore the theater as a first-class performing arts center. Momentum that is driven by Mayor Jerry Doyle, by the members of the Colonial Theatre Steering Committee, and by the Friends of the Colonial Theatre, but momentum that includes thousands of supporters, as you can all see here today. Mrs. Clinton, your visit and the recognition it gives the Colonial Theatre project will catalyze this restoration project and help to revitalize downtown Pittsfield. We are all doubly grateful that you and the Millennium Council have also recognized the historic significance of the Edith Wharton Restoration Project. The Mount is already a national landmark and one of a very few that recognizes the achievements of women, and its restoration is a fitting project for this 150th anniversary year of the women's suffrage movement. Here in the Berkshires, we have cultural traditions that are recognized far beyond our borders. This celebration today is further tribute to those traditions and to the continuing work of many, many people to realize an artistic and economic vision. After today, the treasures of Pittsfield and Berkshire County will take a more secure place among our nation's cultural resources. We are grateful to you for giving your time and your energy to these initiatives. Once again, you've demonstrated your very deep commitment to making the cultural resources of this nation available to our future generations. Now, my other job here today is to keep this rolling, so I'm going to introduce the next speaker. With Mrs. Clinton today are others who play a crucial role in preserving our cultural history. The new chairman of the National Endowment for the Arts has amply demonstrated his own strong commitment to American creativity. So it is my pleasure to present Chairman William Ivey.
thank you, Congressman Over. It's wonderful to be here in Pittsfield on a warm, but I think very important day. We have this day visiting here the First Lady, who is so deeply committed to preserving and conserving really the best of America's artistic, cultural, and historical resources. The Save America's Treasures project, which will protect artifacts and buildings and monuments, works of art, which really comprise our rich and vibrant culture. I want to give special attention to the First Lady. You know, as the chairman of NEA, I find her to be one of this nation's most eloquent, passionate, and tireless spokespersons for the arts. She truly. She knows the true value of arts to this country, recognizes the needs for our federal agencies and for the communities, local arts organizations, to support all of our culture. You know, in her work, you can draw a line from her deep interest in cultural heritage to her caring for communities and families, and for her special interest in children and legacy. And I think combined, that creates a powerful vision of America's past and of America's future. You know, only yesterday, the First Lady and President Clinton announced a remarkable effort to preserve the Star-Spangled Banner in Washington, D.C. Wonderful program. And a wonderful program to save outdoor sculpture in cooperation with NEA, the agency I'm privileged to chair, a $1.4 million nationwide effort working with Target stores to preserve public sculpture all over America. You know, NEA has a long history of working with Massachusetts, with the Massachusetts Cultural Council, Mary Kelly, its executive director. Nearly $700,000 have been distributed to organizations in Western Massachusetts only over the last couple of years. Organizations like the Double Edge Theater Productions in Nashville, Jacob's Pillow Dance Festival, the No Theater in Northampton, Springfield Symphony Orchestra, Tanglewood. It's a very important region for the arts, and we're delighted to be working with Western Massachusetts. And we're also delighted to be part of our nation's Millennium Celebration. We work closely with the White House Millennium Council, and we have committed, our agency has committed, nearly $3 million to Millennium activities this year to begin to celebrate the year 2000, funding the very best in performing, literary, and visual arts, including a $500,000 grant to a favorite poem project that will allow more than 1,000 Americans to read their favorite poems, create a video and audio archive, $500,000 to bring composers into cities, small towns all over the nation, and a wide range of other activities. You know, projects like the restoration of this theater can be so important in revitalizing communities. I grew up in a small town in northern Michigan in which an opera house built about when the Colonial was, around the turn of the century, has become the cornerstone of a community's cultural life, even though its mining industries have declined. And I've also worked with the country music industry in Nashville and seen how Ryman Auditorium, the historic home of the Grand Ole Opry, has been restored and become a real centerpiece of Nashville's cultural life. I hope each of you will have a chance to see this theater, to actually go upstairs. They're offering tours on some Saturdays, and it's something that no one in this community should miss, and I know already about 1,000 citizens have taken this tour. Look at the magnificent moldings, the magnificent curtains that still remain, that are original. A theater like this brings together the work of artists and artisans, architects, woodworkers, painters from the past, and it brings their work right into the present and ultimately into the future. It also possesses something of the quality of sympathetic magic. You know, if you want to hold a guitar that was played by Hank Williams or B.B. King, a little bit of the artistry of everyone who performed in this great theater remains in the woodwork and in the plaster. And I think that sympathetic magic is so important as we bring the past into the present. We're really touching the souls of those who have gone before. And I think it's one of the reasons why Americans are so committed to antiques and museums and to old cars. The First Lady today, through this Save America's Treasures program, is really asking all of us to roll up our sleeves and to harness our inherent enthusiasm for the past, to identify and care for treasures in all of our communities all over the country. And I think to this point, it's remarkable that the Colonial has been preserved through the commitment of a single family. Now it's really time for the community to come together around what has been a personal family effort. And to talk a little more about that commitment, it's my pleasure to bring forward someone who I visited with this afternoon at great length and who you have to hear from, because he is the engine behind this preservation effort. He's a professor emeritus at your own Berkshire Community College, professor of fine arts, and he created major programs in visual arts and theater, drawing, painting, design, scenic design. And he's presently the chair of your historical commission. And he created the Friends of the Colonial Theatre back in 1996. So he is a man who I think has brought this project forward, who cares deeply, and it's my pleasure to present Bob Boland. Bob.
Thank you very much. It's especially gratifying to share this with students, friends, and neighbors. I'm not a native of the town, but I've been here for 60 years, so I think I can risk saying that I'm a local boy. And at least this is one production which I did not have to direct and design. Mrs. Clinton, Mayor Doyle, honored guests, we welcome all of you with a sense of great privilege and pleasure. By coming together here today, we pay honor and respect, I think, to two great ladies, each of them unequaled in America today. First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton has encouraged the United States Our First Lady has encouraged us to recognize, preserve, and respect our heritage through treasures such as the Colonial Theatre. And this Colonial Theatre is a great lady in her own right. Please come this summer and visit her. With the guidance of Mayor Doyle, the steering committee, and the Friends of the Colonial Theatre, we can provide Berkshire County with a premier performance and convention center for treasures such as the Albany Berkshire Ballet, the Berkshire Opera Company, the Town Players, and it could be a winter home for Jacob's Pillow and all of our other performance arts groups. The year 2003 will be the 100th anniversary of the Colonial. Its restoration by that time could be the symbol of Pittsfield's dedication to a new era of prosperity and economic development. I know this city has had a very glorious past. It deserves to have a glorious future. Today, I hope all of you will join me so that we can work together to achieve the goals that are both appropriate and substantial for our 21st century. Our place in the history of art and literature and theater is already secure. We don't have to worry about that, but we can make it better. The Colonial Theatre is not just another local landmark. It has been called one of the 10 best theaters in the entire world. So with encouragement such as we are receiving today, and we are most grateful for, if we work together, this community can provide enduring evidence that Pittsfield is a very special place. Thank you.
Now at this time, it gives me tremendous pleasure to introduce the First Lady of the United States, Mrs. Hillary Clinton.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much. I am so grateful to be here, and I cannot tell you how I felt as I was traveling down the road on my way to Pittsfield, and some of your friends and neighbors were out in their yards or in front of service stations, or I think there was a place called Jimmy's on the side of the road. Some of them were waving flags, they were holding up their babies, and I thought, boy, have I come to the right place. I always knew this was a special place. Now, you might be interested in knowing how I ended up here today, and let me just give you a brief history of that. When we launched Save America's Treasures a few months ago, we knew that we wanted to make the first trip through this part of our country that is so rich with our history, going back before the Revolutionary War, that has seen so much of what made America great happen right here. And we sent out people and we asked all kinds of experts, where should we go? We wanted to go from Washington, D.C., and then end up in Seneca Falls, New York for the 150th anniversary of the Women's Rights Convention. As you might guess, there were dozens and dozens of places that people suggested in Maryland and New Jersey and Pennsylvania and New York, Massachusetts. And we had to sort through all those, and we started sorting by looking at pictures and descriptions, and then we actually sent people out. And I know the mayor had to kind of keep it a secret because we didn't want the people from Washington coming to a community and having folks think that we would come and not come. That would be very disappointing. So everybody was kind of sworn to secrecy, and your mayor, I like him. He's really he's really doing a good job, and he understands how to get things done. And so our people who were representing the National Trust for Historic Preservation and the White House Millennium Council, they visited place after place after place, and some were hard to get to, and some couldn't accommodate buses, and there were all kinds of logistical problems. But when they came back from seeing all these places, I want all of you to know the place they could not stop talking about was Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and the Colonial Theatre. So Mayor Doyle and the citizens of Pittsfield and the citizens of Berkshire County, it is wonderful to be able to join you today, to be here in one of the great cultural centers of our country, and to be standing in front of this rare jewel of architecture, the historic Colonial Theatre. I want to thank everyone who has been working to preserve this theater and to revitalize Pittsfield, and who understands that in today's world, one of the ways to attract economic development, to attract tourism, to give people a sense of pride and a better quality of life is by taking the jewels of the past and making them shine again, so that people all over the country and the world know about Pittsfield, know about the Colonial Theatre. So all of you, from the mayor to the congressman to the Miller family to Bob Boland, who's done so much to remind us of the importance of the Colonial Theatre, to the Friends of the Colonial Theatre and the Colonial Theatre Steering Committee, and especially to the citizens of Pittsfield, I'm here to congratulate you for your interest in preserving not just this particular site, but for what it could mean to the future of this community. As Bill Ivey was explaining, we've seen all over our country. He saw it first in his role at the Country Music Foundation, the work that he did down in Nashville. He has seen it now as the head of the NEA. One of the best ways a community can make an investment in the future is to think about what was special about its past and then to make that live again. I just had the rare privilege of hearing music from the stage once again. It hasn't happened since 1952, I was told, but I heard the Berkshire Fiddlers, a group of young middle school students. I was amazed by their talent, and I was amazed by the quality of the sound. I have read, like perhaps some of you have read, that the Colonial Theatre is ranked above many, many other more famous and well-known theaters as having some of the best acoustics in the world. Based on what I have just heard, I understand why experts say that the acoustics in this theater are on a par with just a handful of theaters throughout the world. I could almost hear the echoes as I listened to those young people play of all the performers who appeared on that stage all those years ago. And as the small group of people who were gathered to hear them, including some very proud parents, applauded at the end of the performance, I could sense what it must have been like sitting in that theater years ago at the end of a performance. Imagine what it was like to sit there and hear John Philip Sousa or Rachmaninoff, or think of hearing the improvisational jazz of U.B. Blake, or John and Ethel Barrymore, or Sarah Bernhardt. Even some of my favorites, the Three Stooges, who were here in person. Yet as unique a place as this theater holds in the history of American theater, there was no guarantee that the building we are in front of today would still be standing, because we've seen too often many of America's great theaters and other treasures erode away, be torn down to make way for something else. A few, like the Federal Street Theater in Boston, burned down. Most fell into disrepair and were demolished. Yet here in Pittsfield, the tradition of preservation runs deep. When the original owners sold it, they didn't want to see it destroyed. And they put it out for bid, as I understand the story. And they made a decision to choose not the highest bid, which was to buy the building and destroy it, but instead to choose the lowest bid from George Miller, who guaranteed he would keep the building intact because he had a dream that one day it would be a theater again. You know, there are untold stories around our country of men like George Miller and his son Stephen Miller, and I want to applaud the late Mr. Miller and Stephen Miller, because they understood, even though they didn't have the resources themselves, that they were the caretakers of a great treasure. I really appreciate that, because by being the caretaker of a historic site, you are preserving it for a moment such as this, where hundreds and thousands of people in this community can come together to hear about this great tradition. And when you could have a plan led by your mayor and others to think of how that would fit into revitalizing this city. When we talk about preserving national treasures, many of us envision the concrete examples like the Star-Spangled Banner that the President and I stood before yesterday at the Smithsonian. I also saw today in Newburgh, New York, the headquarters of President Washington after Yorktown and before the Treaty of Paris. We think about the Gettysburg Address. We think about statues and monuments. Yet it is equally significant as to who we are as Americans to think about our cultural and artistic heritage. It is our dance, our music, our plays, our literature that define us as a people. They lift our spirits, they challenge our imaginations. You better than most understand this, here living in the center of so much artistic musical activity. If we could think for a moment what America would be like without our arts and culture, whether you're a country music fan like Bill Ivey or a Rachmaninoff fan or a Jacob's Pillow fan, think of the rich variety of the arts and culture here in the United States. And it's not just a luxury for the few. We now know that experiences with the arts are especially important to children. We understand how significant being exposed to music and artistic opportunities are to letting each individual child develop their skills and talents. Every child should have that experience. Few children would have access to a theater such as this, whose stage would permit more and more young people, adults as well, to perform and advance their own artistic experiences. If we were able to preserve a theater like this Colonial Theatre, we would be keeping faith with our earliest founding generation. The first American theater was built in Philadelphia in 1766, and Americans fell in love with the stage ever since. When I read history about the predecessors who lived in the White House, I'm always struck by how so many of them sought out the theater as a way to escape the pressures of the job. Well, so many of us have found that same solace and refuge. And here in Pittsfield, you have an example of a place that goes far beyond what other communities could even dream of. Think about how promoting the arts year-round, not just during the summer when so many people from all over the world come to enjoy the Berkshires, but keeping it going all year long, what that could mean to the development of this community. You know, in 1962, when President Kennedy asked Americans for public support of the arts by creating the National Endowment for the Arts, he reminded us that during the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln ordered work to go forward on the Capitol Dome, and that Franklin Roosevelt, in the midst of World War II, dedicated the National Gallery of Art. President Kennedy said, "These leaders understood that the life of the arts, far from being an interruption, a distraction in the life of the nation, is very close to the center of a nation's purpose and is a test of the quality of a nation's civilization." Now, we are facing that test ourselves today, which is why the President and I created the White House Millennium Council. Because we're going to have a change of century and a change of millennium, whether any of us do anything about it or not. We can plan a great New Year's Eve party, and I think all of us should, but I think we should spend a little bit of time reflecting about what are the values from the past and the lessons we want to take with us into the future. And so we created a theme to honor the past and imagine the future. And just think what that means to a community like this. I believe that if we stop as we approach the change of century and millennium, and think, how do we honor the past, and how do we bring forward what we honor to the present, and then build on it as we imagine our future, that's a pretty good description of what we need to do in our own lives, in communities like Pittsfield, and in our nation. I'm an optimist by nature because I believe that when people put their minds to something, they can solve problems, they can make a difference, they can work together. And there certainly is no reason why this great city, which has certainly a glorious past that contributed so much to who we are as Americans, cannot take the lessons and the values from that past and move them forward into the future in a way that does honor to them, but is imaginative, is on the cutting edge, which leads people to say to one another, Pittsfield, the Berkshires, they're showing us how we should imagine the future. So I ask all of you, not just today, but in the days and weeks and months ahead, to work together, to be creative, to think of ways of saving America's treasures. And you all are, in addition to the Miller family, you all are caretakers of a great American treasure, a treasure that meant so much to people in the past, but can once again mean so much to all of us in the future. I would like to come back sometime in the early part of the 21st century and attend a performance here at the Colonial Theatre. You know, I learned the other day that in order to be eligible for national landmark status, you have to be at least 50 years old, so I qualify. So I don't think I can wait a really long time, but I can wait, a while to be able to return to Pittsfield and with all of you celebrate not just the reopening and rehabilitation of a great American treasure, but the revitalization of a great American city. Thank you all very much, and God bless you.
televise. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius. Harmony and understanding, the only just surrounding.
Mystic crystal revelation
And the mind's true liberation. Aquarius.
When the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter lies with Mars, then peace will guide the planets and love will steer the stars.
This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius.
Wow. Hi, everyone.
That's right. Check, check. Do we need to turn this on? Okay. Oh, there I am.
Well, this train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, don't carry nothing but the righteous and the holy. This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, this train. Well, this train is bound for speed now, this train. Built for speed. This train is built for speed now, this train. This train is built for speed. It's the fastest train that you ever did see. Now this train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, this train. Oh yeah. There's a glory train a-comin'. You can hear that whistle blow. What a happy sound when she comes round. It's almost time to go. Get on board, little children, get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, there's peace and freedom in store. Get on board, little children, get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, there's always room for one more. Sing us a verse, Terry Oliberry.
You can forget your cares and trouble, leave the long and lonesome road. When the train comes chugging down the track, gonna carry away our load.
Oh, get on board. Get on board. Little children, get on board. Get on board. Little children, get on board. Get on board. Little children, there's peace and freedom in store. Get on board. Get on board. Little children, get on board. Get on board. Little children, get on board. Get on board. Little children, there's always room for one more. Here comes that train now. Woo, woo, woo. Kathy Joe.
Everyone is welcome to come aboard that train. Whether you are rich or poor, the fare is
Little children, get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, there's peace and freedom in store. Get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, there's always room for one more. Get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, there's peace and freedom in store. Get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, get on board. Little children, there's always room for one more.